In the cold silence above Earth, something watches us. It's not the moon, not a satellite, but a dark, ancient presence, orbiting since long before humanity could even dream of space travel. Because if even one part of this legend is real, it could rewrite everything we know about human history, alien contact, and our place in the universe. There are moments in history that make us question everything we know about our world. Moments that force us to look up at the night sky and wonder who else might be looking back. For decades, scientists, astronomers, and truth seekers have been captivated by a single enigma orbiting high above Earth, a dark, silent object that seems to defy explanation. They call it the Black Knight satellite. But before we dive deep into what it is, let us start with the question that pulls everyone into this mystery. How can something be orbiting our planet thousands of years before humanity even learned how to fly? That's the problem that has haunted researchers and believers alike. The Black Knight isn't just another strange object in space. It's a challenge to our understanding of history, technology, and possibly even life itself. For years, official space agencies have avoided talking about it directly, dismissing it as space debris or a misunderstanding. Yet, whispers of this mysterious object have persisted. People across generations have claimed to have seen it, tracked it, and even captured images of it. If it's just a piece of space junk, why does it behave unlike any known satellite? Why do so many independent sources, from military radar to radio signals, point to something that shouldn't exist at all? Imagine this, a dark metallic object orbiting Earth in a strange polar path, one that doesn't match any man-made satellite's trajectory. It's silent, cold, and ancient. Some claim it's been circling our planet for over 13,000 years. That's long before modern civilization, before the pyramids, before recorded history itself. So the question becomes, who put it there and why? To understand this mystery, we have to rewind time. Back in 1899, Nikola Tesla, one of the greatest minds in human history, detected strange repeating radio signals coming from space. He believed they weren't natural. They were artificial, possibly messages from intelligent beings beyond our world. At the time, no one believed him. But years later, scientists began detecting similar patterns, leading some to wonder if Tesla might have stumbled upon the first communication from the so-called Black Knight satellite. The story doesn't stop there. In 1954, major newspapers across the United States reported that both the U.S. Air Force and the Navy had detected an unidentified satellite orbiting Earth. This was before the launch of Sputnik, before the space race even began. How could there be a satellite up there if no country had yet built one? That's when conspiracy theories started forming, theories that would evolve into one of the greatest unsolved space mysteries ever recorded. As the years passed, more evidence surfaced: radar readings, strange orbits, unexplained signals, and even photographs captured by NASA missions. Each time officials offered an explanation, new data would surface that didn't quite fit the story. Was it really debris from a past mission or something much more intelligent, something watching us from the shadows of space? And that's where our problem lies. We have evidence that doesn't add up, signals that can't be explained, and sightings that can't be easily dismissed. It's as if a puzzle is floating above us, pieces scattered through time, and no one has been able to put them together completely. Every time someone gets close, another layer of mystery unfolds. The deeper we look, the more questions appear. Could it be a relic left by an ancient civilization that reached the stars long before us? A remnant of extraterrestrial surveillance meant to observe our species? Or maybe, just maybe, something we ourselves created in a forgotten chapter of human history? Whatever the truth may be, the Black Knight satellite forces us to confront one of humanity's oldest fears, that we are not alone, and that something beyond our comprehension might already be here. Watching silently from above, the story of the Black Knight satellite doesn't begin in the modern age of space exploration. It begins long before rockets ever left the ground, before satellites even existed as an idea. It begins with strange signals, unexplained sightings, and a pattern of confusion that stretches across more than a century. Each generation has encountered this mystery in a different form, and each time, the evidence seems to grow stronger, not weaker. In 1899, Nikola Tesla, working alone in his Colorado Springs laboratory, began to pick up strange, rhythmic radio signals. Tesla, a man far ahead of his time, was experimenting with wireless transmission of energy when his instrument suddenly detected pulses that seemed to follow an intelligent pattern. He wrote in his notes that the signals did not come from Earth, they came from somewhere in space. To him, it was clear someone or something was attempting to make contact. At the time, his peers dismissed it as interference, but Tesla remained convinced he had heard something extraordinary. What he couldn't have known was that decades later scientists would report hearing similar sounds always seeming to come from a region near the Earth's polar orbit, the same orbit where the Black Knight would later be detected. Fast forward to 1927, Norwegian radio operators began receiving long-delayed echoes. Mysterious radio signals that bounce back seconds later, far longer than ordinary reflections from the ionosphere. Scientists couldn't explain it. Some theorized it was a natural phenomenon, but others quietly wondered if these echoes were being reflected by something artificial in orbit, something large, metallic, and intelligent. That speculation would soon become a lot harder to ignore. By 1954, the world was on the brink of the space race. No satellite had yet been launched, but reports began to emerge of strange objects orbiting Earth. Major newspapers like the St. Louis Dispatch and the San Francisco Examiner published shocking headlines. The U.S. Air Force had detected 2 unknown satellites circling the planet. The problem? The United States hadn't launched anything into orbit. Neither had the Soviet Union. These objects appeared out of nowhere, moving silently above the Earth in patterns that no one could explain. At first, military officials tried to calm public fears, suggesting these readings were likely errors or meteor fragments. But behind closed doors, tracking stations continued to monitor the skies. Something was definitely up there, and it wasn't behaving like any natural object. Radar operators recorded an object in a near-polar orbit, an orbit that no known satellite had yet achieved. This alone raised suspicion because polar orbits require advanced technology and precise control capabilities no nation possessed in 1954. Then came 1960, when the U.S. Navy's radar systems, part of their early warning network, picked up another mysterious object. This time, it wasn't just a blip. The object was moving too slowly to be a meteor and too erratically to be man-made. Newspapers once again lit up with reports of a dark satellite circling the Earth. The Department of Defense stepped in, claiming it was merely a lost piece of the Discoverer program, an American spy satellite that had somehow drifted off course. But there was one problem: the orbital path didn't match. Whatever was up there was operating on a completely different trajectory. NASA, too, became entangled in the growing web of confusion. Engineers and scientists couldn't agree on what the mysterious object could be. Some dismissed it as a piece of thermal blanket debris or a misidentified object from a failed mission. Yet, others privately admitted that certain readings didn't make sense. The object seemed to maintain a steady orbit for years, showing signs of stability and control that random space junk shouldn't possess. Each new sighting deepened the mystery. Amateur astronomers began reporting strange shadows moving across the night sky, while shortwave radio enthusiasts continued to detect unexplained signals that seemed to correspond with the object's orbital path. It was as if the Black Knight had become an uninvited guest in our planet's orbit, one that refused to reveal its purpose. What made it even more puzzling was the consistency. Over decades, multiple agencies, different countries, and even private individuals all recorded something similar, an unknown object moving in a predictable orbit, existing before any human-made satellite. NASA's official explanations changed from one decade to another, but the sightings never stopped. Each new generation of scientists tried to dismiss it as coincidence or misidentification, yet the evidence kept resurfacing in new forms. The deeper they investigated, the more contradictions appeared. NASA would issue statements denying the existence of any such object, but then photographs and radar logs would surface suggesting otherwise. It became a pattern of denial followed by rediscovery, confusion followed by silence. The question wasn't just whether the Black Knight existed, it was why no one in power seemed willing to talk about it openly. By the late 20th century, The legend of the Black Knight satellite had evolved from whispers in scientific circles to one of the most persistent mysteries in modern space history. What was once dismissed as myth began to find a strange kind of proof: photographs, mission footage, and eyewitness reports from astronauts who had seen something in orbit that no one could easily explain. The turning point came in 1998, during NASA's STS-88 mission, the very first space shuttle flight to the International Space Station. The crew of the Space Shuttle Endeavour was on a routine mission, assembling the first modules of the ISS, when NASA's cameras captured a series of photographs showing a large, irregularly shaped, dark object floating against the backdrop of Earth. It didn't resemble any known satellite, nor did it match the design of any equipment deployed during the mission. The object appeared metallic, angular, and eerily symmetrical, like some kind of alien craft or ancient probe. When these photographs were released to the public, they caused a sensation. Conspiracy theorists, UFO researchers, and ordinary viewers alike claimed it was undeniable proof the Black Knight satellite had finally been caught on camera. NASA, of course, had an explanation ready. Officials stated that the mysterious object was nothing more than a thermal blanket that had accidentally drifted away from the shuttle during extravehicular activity. The blanket theory was plausible on the surface. Astronauts had indeed reported losing such a piece of material during the mission, but skeptics quickly pointed out inconsistencies. The supposed blanket seemed far too large, too structured, and too persistent in orbit to be a mere piece of debris. When compared to footage of actual floating debris, the object's movement appeared deliberate, controlled, almost purposeful, as if it were adjusting its position. Amateur analysts began comparing NASA's images with earlier radar tracking data from the 1960s, and what they found was unsettling. The shape and orbital path seemed consistent with previous reports of the unidentified satellite, first detected decades earlier. Could it really be the same object continuing to orbit Earth for over half a century, completely untouched, completely silent? The photographs spread rapidly across the internet, analyzed frame by researchers around the world. Some noticed geometric patterns, almost like panels or plating, while others suggested antenna-like extensions. Theories multiplied overnight. Some believed it was alien technology placed in orbit to observe humanity. Others claimed it was a secret military satellite from the early days of the Cold War, long forgotten and now mistaken for something extraterrestrial. Then came the claims from astronauts themselves. While most NASA personnel kept silent, a few former astronauts hinted in interviews that they had seen things in orbit they couldn't explain, objects that seemed to move intelligently, change direction, or vanish suddenly. None directly confirmed the existence of the Black Knight, but their cryptic statements only fueled speculation. "There are things out there," one astronaut said, "things that defy explanation." Even today, when NASA revisits the topic, the agency's tone remains cautious, almost defensive. Their official stance has never changed. It was debris, nothing more. But for many, the photographs tell a different story. They see structure where NASA sees randomness. They see design where NASA sees coincidence. They see intelligence where NASA sees mistake. The power of those 1998 images lies not just in what they show, but in what they suggest. They revived a mystery that had been simmering for over a century, connecting Tesla's early signals, mid-century radar anomalies, and modern-day visual proof into one continuous thread. A thread that hints at something ancient, deliberate, and far beyond our current understanding of space. And while NASA closed the case publicly, the photos remain archived on their own servers, available for anyone to study. Every few years, new enthusiasts rediscover them, reanalyzing them with modern tools, enhancing resolution, tracking light reflections, and comparing them to modern debris patterns. Yet, no definitive conclusion has ever been reached. For some, these images are an accidental glimpse into one of humanity's oldest mysteries, a silent watcher orbiting above us, hiding in plain sight, caught on film just long enough to remind us that not everything in the sky has an explanation. From the moment the first images and reports of the Black Knight satellite appeared, two very different camps formed: the scientists who insisted on finding a rational, physical explanation, and the believers who claimed humanity was staring at undeniable proof of alien intelligence. Each side built its case with evidence, logic, and passion, but as the decades passed, the line between skepticism and possibility only grew blurrier. Scientists were the first to take the floor, attempting to dismantle the growing hysteria. NASA maintained that the photographs taken during the STS-88 mission were nothing more than an ordinary piece of debris, a lost thermal blanket reflecting sunlight at strange angles, creating the illusion of something extraordinary. They argued that in space, objects can twist, tumble, and take on bizarre shapes due to lighting and perspective. They pointed out that orbital debris is a constant reality and hundreds of such fragments circle the Earth daily. To them, the Black Knight was nothing more than one of those countless leftovers from decades of missions. But not everyone accepted that answer. Researchers, amateur astronomers, and even engineers began to question NASA's official stance. They noted that the supposed debris had been tracked long before the STS-88 mission. The 1950s radar detections, the 1960 Navy sighting, and Tesla's mysterious signals all predated the space age. How could a 1998 blanket explain reports from half a century earlier? The timeline didn't match, and that inconsistency became the fuel for deeper investigation. Conspiracy theorists took this inconsistency and ran with it. They claimed that the Black Knight was far older than any human creation, possibly a satellite of alien origin, placed in orbit to monitor Earth's evolution. Some believed it was part of an interstellar communication system, relaying information between extraterrestrial civilizations. Others proposed that it was a relic from a lost human civilization that achieved advanced technology thousands of years ago, long before our known history began. The name Black Knight itself added to the aura of mystery. It suggested something ancient, something guarding or observing. To believers, it wasn't random space junk. It was a silent sentinel, a watcher that had been in our sky for millennia. They pointed to the peculiar polar orbit often associated with the object. Unlike typical satellites launched by humans, which usually follow equatorial paths, a polar orbit allows for full coverage of the entire planet, as if someone or something wanted to observe Earth in its entirety. The scientific community countered these theories with explanations rooted in physics and probability. They suggested that the supposed polar orbit readings could have been miscalculations, or that multiple unrelated objects were being mistaken for one single phenomenon. Some proposed that the strange radio signals Tesla and others detected were simply natural radio emissions from celestial sources, such as pulsars or reflections off the ionosphere. Yet, each rational explanation seemed to open a new door rather than close one. Even within NASA and defense agencies, documents surfaced showing that unidentified objects had been tracked repeatedly over the years. Declassified reports revealed moments of genuine confusion, instances where radar systems detected objects moving unpredictably, sometimes vanishing entirely from tracking screens. Although these reports were often categorized as unresolved, they hinted that not everything could be explained away as debris or error. Meanwhile, the internet became a breeding ground for every possible theory. Some said the Black Knight was part of an ancient alien network meant to guide or protect humanity. Others connected it to secret government projects like Project Bluebeam, suggesting that global powers were hiding contact with extraterrestrials. A few even proposed that the satellite was transmitting data to unknown locations, perhaps to bases hidden on the dark side of the moon. Mainstream scientists, frustrated by the flood of speculation, continued to label it a myth. Yet the passion of those who believed couldn't be silenced. They pointed out that every great scientific discovery in history began as something unbelievable, from meteorites, once thought to be stones falling from heaven, to deep-sea creatures once dismissed as sailors' fantasies. They argued that if we dismiss everything that doesn't fit our understanding, we may overlook the greatest truth of all. And so the argument rages on, neither side yielding ground. On one hand, we have data, logic, and reason. On the other, wonder, possibility, and centuries of unexplained encounters. The scientific world demands proof, while the believers claim the proof has been right above our heads all along, quietly orbiting, waiting for the moment humanity finally chooses to see it for what it truly is long before the name Black Knight satellite ever existed. Ancient civilizations were already telling stories of watchers in the sky, mysterious beings, luminous orbs, and objects that appeared to move among the stars. These legends span continents and centuries, and while modern science often labels them as myth or symbolism, some researchers believe they might be descriptions of real encounters, early evidence of the same phenomenon we now call the Black Knight. If we trace back through time, almost every ancient culture left behind references to beings who came from the heavens. The Sumerians spoke of the Anunnaki, divine visitors who descended from the sky to shape human civilization. The ancient Egyptians told tales of gods who sailed in celestial boats, crossing the night sky as if patrolling from above. The Mayans, Aztecs, and Incas built temples aligned precisely with the stars, as if they were trying to communicate with something watching from orbit. To many believers, these ancient stories sound less like mythology and more like historical memories. Accounts of a presence that has always been here, silently observing humanity's rise. Even in ancient art, clues seem to surface. Cave paintings in Africa, rock carvings in Australia, and stone reliefs in South America show strange, disc-shaped objects floating in the sky, sometimes with figures looking down from them. Were these merely spiritual symbols, or was humanity recording sightings of something very real? If the Black Knight satellite truly has been orbiting Earth for thousands of years, could it have been the source of these ancient encounters? One of the most compelling connections comes from a legend often called the Watchers. In ancient Hebrew and Mesopotamian texts, these were beings who descended from the heavens to monitor mankind, not gods, but watchers, messengers, observers. Their purpose was to watch over humanity, record its progress, and occasionally intervene. The very name Watcher mirrors the supposed behavior of the Black Knight, silent, orbiting, and always observing. Then there are the strange alignments found across the planet. The Great Pyramids of Giza, Stonehenge, and the ancient temples of Angkor Wat all align perfectly with specific constellations or celestial events. Historians explain this as ancient astronomy. But what if these structures were designed not just to track the stars, but to signal something above Earth's sky? Some theorists believe the builders knew of a dark object orbiting above, one that played a role in human destiny. The pyramids, they say, were messages written in stone, messages for the watchers above. In Greek mythology, there was the story of Prometheus, a being who brought knowledge from the heavens to mankind. In Hindu tradition, the Vimanas were flying chariots of the gods, described with such mechanical detail that they sound eerily similar to spacecraft. Chinese chronicles from thousands of years ago mention stars that moved against the heavens, objects that appeared suddenly, traveled for days, then disappeared. These records, separated by oceans and centuries, all point toward one consistent theme. Something was moving in the skies that wasn't supposed to be there. Modern researchers studying these myths often find patterns that connect directly to the mystery of the Black Knight. The orbits described in ancient star maps sometimes include objects that shouldn't exist. Even ancient astronomers like Ptolemy and Chinese stargazers from the Han Dynasty recorded dark companions to the Earth, unexplained moving shadows seen through early observational tools. Could those shadows have been the same object we now track with modern radar? As the story of the Black Knight grew in the 20th century, believers began to see it not as a new discovery, but as a rediscovery of something humanity had once known. The idea that an ancient intelligence may have placed a satellite in orbit to watch over Earth fits eerily well with those ancient tales of divine overseers. Some go even further, suggesting that humanity's knowledge, architecture, and early bursts of civilization were all influenced by information transmitted from the Black Knight itself, a celestial teacher that once guided human evolution. Even skeptics find it hard to ignore the coincidences. How could so many cultures, separated by geography and time, share similar stories about sky watchers, flying objects, and gods who descend from above? If they were all simply imagining the same thing, it would be one of the most extraordinary coincidences in human history. But if they were seeing something real, something orbiting just beyond the clouds, then perhaps the Black Knight satellite ICEN, merely a modern mystery. It is an ancient one that has been with us since the dawn of time, quietly shaping the myths, religions, and beliefs of humanity itself. As we move deeper into the modern era, the mystery of the Black Knight satellite hasn't faded. It has evolved. What began as whispered speculation in the days of Tesla has become a global puzzle that the internet generation refuses to let die. Scientists, engineers, UFO researchers, and digital analysts have all taken their turn trying to decipher what exactly this enigmatic object could be. And with each new piece of technology, each new discovery, the lines between fact, fiction, and possibility grow even thinner. In the last 2 decades, high-powered telescopes, AI-driven orbital tracking systems, and advanced imaging software have all been directed toward identifying every piece of space debris circling our planet. Yet somehow, the Black Knight continues to elude a definitive explanation. Independent observers claim that the object's orbit remains unique, slightly irregular, but stable, unlike the random paths of typical debris. It doesn't appear on official satellite registries, and it doesn't transmit any known signals. Yet some amateur radio operators still claim to pick up faint, unexplained transmissions near its predicted coordinates. These signals are usually dismissed as interference, but they're eerily similar to the strange pulses Tesla once recorded over a century ago. Modern image analysts have revisited the 1998 NASA photographs, applying new enhancement techniques that didn't exist back then. What they've found has reignited debate across online communities. The object's surface seems structured, composed of panels or layers, not crumpled like a piece of lost material. Some parts reflect light as if they're made of a smooth metallic surface, while others absorb it completely, suggesting a composite material that doesn't match any known spacecraft components. For every scientific explanation offered, new details arise that defy it. NASA continues to maintain its stance that the Black Knight is nothing more than a combination of misunderstandings and space debris. Yet curiosity outside of official channels keeps growing. In the 2020s, groups of independent astronomers and citizen scientists began using crowdsourced data to track unidentified objects in orbit. They found something that matched the Black Knight's description, an object roughly 10 meters long, orbiting Earth in a near-polar path, visible only during certain hours of twilight. Strangely, it doesn't behave like debris. Instead of tumbling randomly, it appears to maintain a slow, deliberate rotation. This has sparked new questions among the scientific community. Could this object be part of an ancient human experiment lost to history? Some theorize it could be remnants of early Cold War technology, or perhaps an experimental satellite launched secretly and later abandoned. Others believe the answer might lie far beyond our history, that the Black Knight is not of this Earth, but of another world entirely. Adding to the intrigue are modern AI models designed to scan orbital footage for anomalies. In multiple datasets, these systems have flagged the same dark object in polar orbit, identifying movement patterns inconsistent with normal debris. The algorithms can't tell what it is, only that it's different. Some researchers have even suggested that it's adjusting itself, as if responding to gravitational or electromagnetic fields with precision, a behavior that would suggest some form of control. Meanwhile, online forums, documentaries, and podcasts keep the story alive. Every few years, a new photo or video emerges, a dark silhouette gliding above the Earth's curve, reigniting the question. Is it the Black Knight? Some are proven hoaxes, others remain unexplained. But even when proven false, the legend refuses to die. It's as if the mystery itself has become immortal, feeding off the curiosity of every generation that dares to look up. Governments have been largely silent about the object in recent years, yet declassified documents occasionally hint at continued monitoring. Files from space defense networks reveal that unidentified objects are still being tracked in Earth's orbit, objects that dawn to fit into any known satellite catalog. Whether they are remnants of human projects or something far older, no one can say for sure. For scientists, the mystery of the Black Knight represents the limits of our understanding of near-Earth space. For believers, it is the smoking gun, proof that we are not alone, that something ancient and intelligent has been circling above us since before history began. With modern technology advancing faster than ever, Perhaps the day will come when high-resolution telescopes or deep space probes finally capture it clearly, ending the debate once and for all. Until then, it remains there, a dark sentinel drifting, silently above our planet, the greatest enigma in the sky that refuses to be solved, daring humanity to keep searching, to keep questioning, and to keep wondering what might still be watching from the shadows of space. For over a century, the mystery of the Black Knight satellite has hovered between fact and legend, a shadow that refuses to fade from humanity's imagination. From Tesla's strange signals in 1899 to NASA's puzzling photographs 100 years later, every piece of evidence seems to hint at something beyond our reach, something that challenges the very foundation of what we believe about our place in the universe. Scientists call it debris, believers call it a messenger, skeptics call it myth. But the truth, whatever it is, continues to drift silently above us, watching. What makes the Black Knight so haunting isn't just the mystery of its existence, but what it represents. It's a mirror reflecting our deepest human desire to understand the unknown, whether it's an alien probe, a lost human relic, or a cosmic coincidence. It forces us to look up and ask questions that science still can't answer. Who put it there? Why does it remain? And what if it's not the only one? Maybe the Black Knight is a reminder that despite all our progress, our telescopes, our satellites, and our knowledge, the universe still holds secrets that can humble us. Perhaps it's not just an object, but a symbol of the eternal curiosity that drives humanity to explore, to discover, and to never stop seeking the truth. As it continues its silent orbit high above the Earth, the Black Knight satellite remains both a mystery and a message, a dark sentinel in the night sky whispering to anyone brave enough to listen that the story of our world might be far older and far stranger than we've ever dared to imagine.